Did the United States ruling class overthrow the government of Ukraine in 2014? U.S. mainstream media says this is a conspiracy, but let's look at the evidence. As we discussed in the last video, in February 2014, Maidan protesters overthrew the government in Kiev, aided by millions of dollars strategically funneled into Ukraine by the U.S. State Department via Western NGOs. And what U.S. mainstream media never talks about are the anti-Maidan protests which started propping up in resistance to this. And although these people have been portrayed as puppets of Putin by the U.S. mainstream media, they're really just people who are against U.S. NATO interventionism and some of the extreme policies that were enacted by the new government, such as the banning of the Russian language, which makes sense given all the ethnic Russians who live in eastern Ukraine. This led to the war in the Donbass, where 14,000 people were killed between 2014 and the Russian invasion in 2022. And the anti-Maidan movement eventually spread to Odessa, an extremely strategically important city. And this is what led many extremist groups and violent Maidan protesters to descend on Odessa after a very important soccer game was held.
Masked, armed, and shouting nationalist mottos, began disturbances in the center of the city as they marched to the anti-Maidan tent encampment, where they attacked. The anti-Maidan protesters sought shelter in the trade union house, but it was a trap. Maidan supporters started throwing Molotov cocktails into the building until it was engulfed in flames.
39 people were burned alive at the Odessa Union building, and the videos are too graphic for me to show on TikTok, people jumping out of windows to avoid burning. But you can look them up if you want, and the whole thing was led up and organized by the notorious far-right party Right Sector, an extremist right-wing nationalist party with its own paramilitary. A right-wing Ukrainian politician, Andriy Peribui, who said this one time, was seen meeting with many of the instigators in Odessa just weeks before it went down.
Turned out to be fighters from the Maidan self-defense units, along with members of radical organizations from all parts of Ukraine.
As the anti-Maidan movement continued in 2015, the US-backed Ukrainian government appointed ex-Georgian President Mikheil Saakashvili to be the governor of Odessa. Saakashvili had long been a friend of the US ruling class and neocon politicians, as he had been one of the main fixtures in a previous US-backed color revolution in Georgia, where he brutally repressed people rising up against him and was eventually forced to flee the country, being charged with embezzlement. He ended up taking refuge in Washington, D.C. until they found a new job for him. Within a month, U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine Jeffrey Pyatt was visiting Saakashvili to promise U.S. funding and support so long as they continued to see progress in Ukraine. He means progress towards a proxy war with Russia. Saakashvili announced that he would be getting $200,000 a month from the U.S. State Department, which means he's much better paid than most U.S. governors here at home. For them, controlling Ukraine is more important than investing at home.